Gentlemen, welcome to Ask Grit. Yet another episode. In fact, this is episode number 47. Today we are going to talk about property management, and here with me today we have Phil from our Melbourne office, who is one of the property managers. So the first-time viewers who are joining in, we do this every single week, either Thursday or Friday. We try our best to stick to Thursdays. If we have any other events, we compensate to Friday. So that's what happened this week. We typically answer questions from our own investors on property investment, property management, and so forth, so that it can add some value to you. That's the whole purpose of this program. It's typically only 15-20 minutes, very short, but hopefully you can pick up some golden nuggets out of this session. Today, Phil will be walking us through some questions on property management specifically. What have you got today, Phil?
Hello, everyone. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you for having me today. So yeah, let's get straight to it. The first question is a very common question that we get actually here at Grit Property, and a couple of landlords actually asked me. What should a landlord look for when trying to find a property manager? What should they look for?
Yeah, I think as an investor, what they care about is return on their investment. As a property manager, they have to be part of their team. It's not two separate teams, it's one team. So as an investor, they need to make sure the property manager is on their side. They will take care of his interest to make sure the property is maintained properly. Because if the property is not maintained properly, if there's cost associated with it due to negligence, that will go from the investor's pocket, which is not very good as an investor. And another thing which they need to look at is if the property manager is experienced in handling any sort of situation. It can be maintenance, it can be handling tenants, it can be handling payments from the tenants, it can be handling VCAT if it has to go to that stage. So that experience factor is quite important so that it will add value to the investor. At the same time, communication is another very important aspect. If your property manager is not communicating to the landlord, that's a problem, because as an investor, they don't know what is going on. It's both ways. As a property manager, they should be talking to the tenant as well as the landlords frequently to let the landlord know what is going on, as well as at the same time to check on the tenants to see how everything is going for them. Because if you look after the tenants well, there's a high chance that they look after the property extremely well, and that will benefit everyone, the property manager as well as the landlord. So a few things to look for: experience, communication, and then they have to be on the same team. The property manager should be on the same team as the landlord and the investor.
Okay. Okay. When also looking, looking at property management in different estates, do they vary in terms of management fees as well, or are they the same?
Yeah, they do. I think Melbourne is probably the cheapest as an investor, where you would find you're looking at 5 to 6%, 5 to 7% actually. But if you look at places like Perth, or you're looking at a 10%, they will not budge below that, and that's the norm. If you look at Brisbane, you're looking at 8 to 9%, Canberra around 8%, South Australia same, 7 to 8%. I think Melbourne and Sydney is what you can find for about 5 to 6%.
Okay. So when a property manager is doing a routine inspection, what do they usually cover in that routine inspection?
Yeah, that's an important question. Routine inspections are very important. Those are the inspections which will make sure the property has been kept in order. So in a routine inspection, there is a baseline for a property manager to look at. Baseline is the entry inspection report or the previous routine inspection report, to see how it was and how it was supposed to be. And if it is not in par with that, then there is a deviation, and as a property manager, he or she should let the tenant know to fix it up. It can be the walls being dirty, walls being drawn up by the kids, or the carpet being damaged, the flooring has been damaged, the doors have been damaged, whatever it might be. In a routine inspection, there's a whole lot of checklist, go through room by room, item by item, so that we cover the whole basis, internal as well as external. It can be tenants have maintained internal very well, but the garden might be a mess. Again, that will have some costs associated for the landlord if it's not maintained well in the future. So it's very important to get it fixed up. Typically, we give a timeline for the tenants to fix those things up, and yeah, so it's very important to have routine inspections, and it's very important as a landlord for you to obtain the routine inspections report so that you know what is going on, as well as you have some written evidence to that. And also, these routine inspections reports or exit inspection report or entry inspection reports will be vital if you have to go to VCAT for whatever reason. And these are sources of evidence. So as I said before, routine inspections are extremely important, and that is typically what is covered.
Okay. So this next question is probably the most common question I get asked by almost any potential landlords or anyone like that. And that is, what happens if a tenant decides not to pay rent?
Typically, tenants pay on time, but you do have occasional instances where tenants get delayed. So the worst case, I mean, typically what's happening is if there's a delay, as a property manager, you should be following up to see what's going on. It can be for many reasons. It can be tenants would have simply forgotten. You just have to give a little nudge on them. It can be they are facing some financial difficulties. Again, communication is key. We need to know, as a property manager, you need to know what's going on, and that has to be communicated back to the landlord. Or it might be something else. They're out of the country, but whatever it is. If the tenant fails to pay the rent, we give multiple warnings. Try your best to mutually agree on a timeline to pay the rent. If they don't, in typically more than 2 weeks, as a property manager, you should be sending something called notice to vacate if there's no response from the tenant, which means it's a notice from used by the Consumer Affairs asking the tenant to leave. And most tenants do pay as soon as they see that. If they don't, again, the last resort is going to VCAT. So there is a tribunal where you apply for it, and then the tenant has to be present, and then the judge will make a decision on what has to be done or the correct course of action. I mean, these are last resorts, but typically, as long as you have a good communication going, as long as you have a good rapport going with the tenants, these things are always solvable, but that would be the last resort to go to VCAT.
Okay. And following up on that question, there's another question that I get asked really common as well is, let's just say you have a tenant and they damage your property, right? And they've vacated the place, but the bond doesn't cover the damages of the property.
Yeah.
What should a landlord do, and how do they solve this problem?
Yeah, I mean, you cannot take a bond of more than 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the state you're in. If it exceeds, the damages exceeds that amount, then the only way to recover that is through the landlord insurance. As a property investment company, we advise all our landlords to have this insurance in place. It's extremely important, especially if a tenant has damaged the property and the cost is more than the amount which has been held in the bond. You can use the landlord insurance to cover that cost. And if you don't have that insurance, you will be out of pocket. So it's a very important insurance to have as a property investor.
Yep. And this is probably the last question. We might have more, but why can't someone manage their own property? That's a
Yeah, that's another common question.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can. They can. I mean, as a landlord, they can do it by themselves. So, I mean, as an investor, they need to weigh the pros and cons.
Mm.
The main advantage is they're going to save some cost. And how much would that be? I mean, let's say $100 a month, 1,200 a year. The time they're going to save, that $1,200 per year, is going to be invaluable. So if you have the time to do it, you possibly can do it. But I mean, property managers they're professionals at what they do, and if you can get a property manager as part of their team, it'll make the property investor's life so much easier. I mean, as a property investor, it's not, you should not stop in one property or two properties, right? And if you have 3, 4, 5, up to 10 properties, doing it on your own, it's going to be a tedious task, and it's simply not practical. And you just have to let the professionals do what they do the best, and make them part of the team, so that there is a cost involved, but the return on that investment is going to be immense. Just imagine as a property investor having to go to weekend, having to chase tenants away, having to chase tenants for rent, paying all these bills. So I mean, you can have a lot of time, and be confident that the saving you're going to make is not going to be worth it. Your return on investment is going to be much more than that, where you can go the distance in property investment by having multiple properties and using good property managers who are on the ball and who is part of your team.
That's all the questions for me for the week.
Okay, let's see what we have got online. Yeah, I think there are a couple of more. This question is, why is property management fees up to about 10% in Perth? That's a good question. That's what it is. It's been the norm, and those agents, I mean, typically charge 9 to 10%. Those markets, I mean, especially Perth, the rent property management market is very hot, and that's been the norm, and that's the average property management fees they charge. And as an investor, you need to account for that as an expense in your workings. So, if you're paying 10% in your property management fees, you've got to make sure your rental returns or rental yields are pretty high. So you just have to do the numbers. In a place like, if you're getting about 3 to 4% rental yield, paying 10% for a property manager can be an overkill. So you got to really do the numbers as a property investor. But the property management fees, that's the norm in WA. We have another question. The question is, I have 4 properties in Melbourne. Does it make sense to give all 4 properties to the same agent? Well, it does make sense as long as they know what they're doing. Some property management companies, they only cater to a particular suburb, and they do that extremely well. Whereas some property investment companies like ourselves, we manage all over Victoria, and it's very common for us to manage all over Victoria. So it really depends on the company, the expertise. If one of the agents you have is managing the property extremely well in a particular suburb, and if you don't do any other suburbs, you have no choice. But if they're doing that job very well, keep it that way. But at the same time, if you find a company who does everything by themselves all over Victoria, and if they're doing a pretty damn good job, use them, because that way your management might be easy. You have one single point of contact. You have statements coming in from the same company. This makes your life easier, and then you probably can negotiate a better management fee and with that agent, because you're giving 4 properties. So I hope that answers that question. All right. I think there's one more. Okay. I've found a lot of property management companies in the city not doing their job very well. Any particular reason why? I don't know. It really depends on what has been going on for that particular agent or the company. It sounds like you have had some bad experiences, but look, I mean, you just have to dig deep and see what was going on. And if you're not getting a service, I mean, don't delay it because it's your hard-earned money. You got to change providers like anything else. All right. I think that's it for the day, Phil.
All right, great.
All right. Thank you so much for listening in. And we're going to see you again next week, next Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a fabulous weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, everyone. See ya. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.